everyone, so I'm excited to be here at SBG Ireland together with a professional fighter, Nicolas Dalby, who is also visiting here, and it just coincided that we're both here at the same time. He's preparing for a title fight at Cage Warriors?
Yes, Cage Warriors 106.
Nice. It's going to happen where?
It's in London in the Apollo Theatre.
Nice. What date? So how far from now?
Yeah, it's next weekend, so it's going to be June 29th.
Nice, very cool. So for me, as just a very beginner, amateur, wannabe fighter, it's always great for me to meet people who are already down far the path and just to gain the experience or learn from the experience you have. But before I ask some questions which are interesting to me as a wannabe fighter, I am aware of a little bit of your background, which is quite fascinating. I think it's an inspiring story. So what could you introduce the audience to? What's the story?
What's the story? Well, I've been fighting professionally since 2010, so almost 10 years. And I've been doing MMA since 2005. Yeah, 5. Or 6, I can't remember. It's been so many years. Yeah. And I've had a lot of ups and some downs. Won the Cage Warriors title back in 2014. Got a UFC contract in 15. Had some good fights. But were also where I had my first losses. So
your first loss was at a UFC before you haven't lost?
Yeah. Yeah, I was undefeated for like 14 fights, 15 fights, something like that.
Yeah, that's impressive.
So yeah.
So if you're okay at going a bit deeper into that subject, so first of all, actually, I'm interested. I'll share before I go there. So I had one amateur fight. It's like a more pre-amateur fight, and I lost that one. Split decision, controversial. Many people say I should have won, but that doesn't matter. I lost. So I know straight away from the beginning what it means to lose, and it wasn't fun. It wasn't easy. I only can imagine what it means to be a winning fighter for so many years or so many fights, and then having that loss eventually. So how was that? Can you share?
Well, actually, it's a weird thing because at that time the reason I lost was because I was getting depressed, and I was already on my way into like depression. So actually, when I lost, it didn't affect me that much. I was like, yeah, okay, it's gonna come eventually, and it came, whatever. You know, I kind of brushed it off because I guess I was already kind of numb. And being depressive at that point, so it didn't affect me that much, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I can see. If it's okay to ask, where do you think the depression came from? Was it related to the fighting career, or was it personal life?
I think it's a combination. I think without being aware of it, I've had several bouts of minor depression early in my life. Yeah. Or at least had some moments where I kind of, suddenly just clocked out for 2 months and didn't do anything else but play computer and stay in my room, kind of. Yeah. So I've had those kind of downs throughout my adult life, and then I think combined with me quitting my job and training full time, you have these periods between fights where you're not you don't have to do something.
Right. Yeah.
And you have a lot of off time, and if you then have a tendency to perhaps kind of shut yourself in and don't go out for 2 months or don't train for 2 months, then the highs are high when you win the fights and you fight, but then the lows are really low and you feel alone and you're not. I wasn't myself, so I think it was a combination of those things, and I just didn't have a good way of handling the downtime between fights.
Right. It's an interesting thing that you just made me think about. When I think about celebrities, or especially like rock stars or music stars, It seems like that's an occurring thing as well, and I'm not an expert at that field. I don't know exactly if that's it, but what I picked up. It seems like they have those high highs, concerts, tours, everyone loves them, and then these downtimes where it just seems like it's hard to handle. I never thought about that it's the same at professional fighting, but you just made me realize that it seems like it's like that.
I think, of course, there's a lot of attention when you're fighting, there's a lot of focus. And a lot of maybe media and stuff, and there's so many things you have to take care of for a fight. But then after the fight, it's kind of like a vacuum, especially the first couple of weeks after, because you've been focusing all this energy and training and preparing yourself physically and mentally, and then right after the fight, it's just like a vacuum. There's nothing. Just silence.
Right.
And I guess if in general, if you're not good at picking yourself up from that and getting out and getting in your daily routine again, then you can kind of get caught in some kind of a hole. And that's what happened to me. I kind of got caught in that feeling of being in a vacuum and just feeling numb.
Right. I'm very new at this, so I'm just puzzling everything together. But from what I've read and heard and saw, it seems like it is a thing that happens to quite a few fighters.
Yeah.
And you clearly were able to overcome that. So how did you get out of that difficult challenge?
Well, once I lost a couple of fights, I got released by UFC, and then I really slipped into like a year-long depression where I spent more time drinking than anything else, basically. Yeah. More time drinking, eating pizza and crisps, chips, whatever you want to call it. So, but while I was in that period, I still kind of wanted to keep fighting, but I wasn't doing anything to get back in shape or anything. And for me, it was just like there was this thing that happened that I can't go into, but it made me realize that if I wanted to keep that dream of fighting alive, I had to act. So it was almost kind of like an epiphany. Like I woke up one day and I was like, okay, I need to get my shit together if I wanna do what I actually think of doing. So I contacted a psychologist who's also like a mental coach, booked an appointment with him, started getting back to the gym, just one day to the other. It might not be as the same for other people. So I think if I could give advice to other people, it would just be like, try and get a daily routine going. If you're feeling like stuck and you feel like you can't go out of bed, go for a walk. Start slow. Of course, it's okay to have days where you feel off and feel bad and feel sad, but at the same time, try and just take it one step at a time. Try and see if you can get that 1% better each day. Right. You can't like I didn't change my life completely. I just woke up one day and started doing it. But it's not like I came into I was in fighting shape overnight and like just one day to the other that I just trained 2 times a day. It wasn't like that. It was very progressive, and I think that's the best way to do it. Keep working at what you want to change, and just take small steps at a time. So if you take it too big of a step and you've been dealing with depression and you've been feeling down, if you take too big of a step and you fail, it can almost put you more back than where you started out. So I think it's important to just take it one small step at a time and then work your way forwards.
So since you overcame that challenge and now you're back into professional fighting, title fight is just on the way, how does that feel? How does it feel to be back in the game?
It feels amazing. It really does. I feel so peaceful in a way. I feel so calm. I feel like in a way I gained 10 years of life experience in that year when I was dealing with this stuff. So I know myself a lot better. I know better where my limits are, and that enables me to rest when I need it and push on when I have the energy.
Cool. Well, before I get to more technical questions about MMA fighting, I wanted to say thank you very much for sharing about that.
You're welcome.
It's an interesting kind of resonance for me because my channel is a lot about the losing side. I mean, not the losing, kind of the downside of things. And that's something I feel my audience appreciates, and I appreciate myself, is because so many people try to show the positive side. It's like, you know, the way Facebook, Instagram works these days. It's like, look, I'm at this place, and everybody suffers through difficulties, but few people are courageous enough to share that and own it. So I really appreciate that you're open about sharing that and supporting, in that way, supporting others who are having that same challenge, because there's so many people who have the same challenge.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like nobody wants to see people crying on videos online, right? So I get why people want to share the most positive sides, but yeah, I found a way to turn this negative into something positive, and I hope that, you know, by talking about it, you know, people can maybe feel more at ease with not always being happy every day.
Exactly.
Because you're gonna have some bad days, and that doesn't mean you have to necessarily share it to the world, but embrace it and kind of acknowledge that, you know, life is not just a fairy tale every day, all day.
So more of an MMA question, fighting question. You've been undefeated for many fights, and I always was kind of inspired and impressed about that narrative, that story of fighters who were able to do that. It seems like that's the go-to thing, or those are the people who make it the furthest, and that's only maybe my impression. But still, I'm curious, have you ever thought about what made you into that fighter who's able to just beat an opponent after an opponent? What was the difference between you and the other guys you were fighting?
That's a good question. I feel like what I've been able to do compared to the opponents I've fought, and this doesn't speak to everyone else, that's just my experience, that I've always been focused on working every second of a fight. Not that I had to do something every second of the fight, but some people, like, let's say they're shadow boxing in the gym. They do a combination and they look down on the ground, move around a bit, and then it's again. And so, yeah, I guess I've just always been working at minimizing my bad habits. So if you throw a roundhouse kick, I have a different style of kicking as well. I don't turn all the way around if I miss. Well, sometimes it happens, but usually I don't. I've always been working at minimizing my bad habits, so when I'm shadow boxing, I'm not doing it from down here with my hands. I'm keeping my hands tight. So like shadow boxing is where you're training your punches and your combinations, so why shouldn't you like put an effort into keeping your hands where they're supposed to be? Stuff like that. And I think that, and just being so lucky to have a trainer that was very good at coming up with game plans. So he was good at seeing what I was good at and what I wasn't so good at compared to the opponents I faced. That made us able to do solid game plans. That helped a lot as well. And then just trying to, like, you're in the fight, you only got 15 minutes to work, so make as much count as possible. Of course, if you're feeling exhausted, give yourself a break, but that as well is knowing the limits and you know, keeping yourself in the game.
Right, nice. And for a beginner fighter, what's the advice you would give?
Depends on what the question is, because that's a very broad question.
True.
There's so many things to do, right?
It is a kind of theoretical question, but if you would have to pick one thing which you would think is more relevant than others generally.
Like, I mean, do you mean like BJJ, wrestling,
MMA.
or
like an MMA fighter, a person who wants to fight professionally? Let's say that's the person's goal, professional fighting, and there's obviously a way to get there. What would be your advice? I mean, I imagine there's so many aspects to it, but what would be the first one that pops up?
Are we talking like a guy who hasn't fought before? Comes into a gym, wants to be a professional fighter?
Let's say a little bit of training.
Yeah. I would say find a gym where you feel comfortable, because that will make you come back to training more, and the more you train, the better you get, and the better you get, the more of a chance of you winning your fights, and you need to take it one step at a time. I've had a lot of not a lot, but sometimes people contact me, yeah, I want to be a professional fighter, I want to be a UFC fighter, whatever. And those are usually the ones that turn up for 2 sessions and then I never see them again. The ones I usually see coming back is the ones that come in, yeah, could be fun to take a fight. Oh, I just want to try and maybe have a fight. And you know, they come in with like this step-by-step mindset instead of, as we talked about before with depression, like if you want to come out of it, you need to take small steps. Because if you take too big of a step and you feel you fail, then it's going to be harder to come back. And it's kind of like the same in training. So if you come into a gym and expect to become a professional fighter, UFC fighter within a year, which is rarely going to happen, and then you don't make that happen, and you don't feel don't feel the progression you feel you should be able to do, then you feel it's a failure, and then you don't want to come back. So I think the biggest advice for me is to find a gym you're comfortable at, and take it step by step. It's good to have ambitions and dreams, but also realize that there's so many steps to becoming a professional fighter and a UFC fighter. Like, I've been lucky in a way that the stars aligned for me to be able to fight 4 times a year and avoid injuries and stuff like that to get to where I got to or where I am today. I don't know, people, you know, your mother gets sick, whatever, you need to take 2 years out, that kind of throws a spanner in your plans. So I would say focus more on the next fight. It's good to have the dream of UFC, a professional fighter, but throw your focus on the next fight. How you can improve here and now, and mid-term, and then the long term will come by itself.
Got it. And I believe this will probably be one of the last questions. You, again, if this is probably not a secret, you're 34, right? I'm turning 30 soon. I just started MMA, and I'm interested to try out fighting at least for a certain time, a certain amount. I am concerned though about my age, but you had much more experience than I did at my age, but still you've been in the realm of fighting when you're 30. Is there a difference? Did you feel a difference, or is it? Do you think it is an advantage because you have experience, or is it a disadvantage in terms of physique? I have no clue. What would you say?
It's different for everyone. Like I'm 34 now, as you said, and after I had like that 1.5 year off from fighting, when I came back for the first fight, I was like, my body was spent. But I think that was then, now I feel great. So I think that was more like just coming back from that. But in the beginning I was like, is this age playing with me now? So physically right now I feel like I could be 27. But I guess it's different for everyone. But again, now you're thinking too much into the future. Take it step by step. If you know, you are who you are, and your body is what it is, right? So take the next fight, see if that goes well. Does it start aching? You know, do you start having chronic injuries? Then maybe you should like reassess. But it's so difficult to say because there's so many things that could happen. You could go to train tomorrow and tear your ACL, and then that might be it. Or you could come to train tomorrow and get a good session, and then get a more good session, and then maybe in 2 years' time you're fighting professionally. Who knows? So, the question, I get it. But it's thinking too much ahead. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Because nobody knows where. Maybe, as I said, your mom gets sick in a year, and you have to take 2 years off to take care of her. You know, you never know what happens, or if you get an ACL injury, whatever. You just gotta take one step at a time. Because maybe you're the type of guy that like, maybe you're like Randy Couture and keeps fighting till he's 47. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, it's a great point. I like that a lot.
Take it step by step.
Yeah, I think it's perfect to hear that from me. And
maybe if you were 40, I would be like, don't count on maybe becoming a UFC fighter.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah.
But still, again, if you have a dream of doing something, like, go for it. It's like usually the only thing you regret is what you didn't do.
Yeah.
If you went for something and it didn't work out, but you tried to do your best, unless it like makes you super broke or like something like that.
Yeah.
Unless, let's count that aside. But if you go for something, then usually still you get some experience from that you can use to get on in life, maybe in another direction. But
yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
So it's good to have ambitions, but don't doubt yourself. Just go for it.
Right.
And if it doesn't work out, you know, it was never supposed to work out anyway.
Yeah.
Because you can't change. You couldn't have started 2 years earlier.
Right.
Or 5 years earlier. Because you started now.
Yeah.
You did something else before that.
Right.
So you just got to go with what you had.
Yeah.
And then try and do it.
I like that point a lot. I think it's great. When you speak about that, I remember because I get some of the knowledge that I have kind of a stupid way, but I read the comments in my sections, and there's many people, and obviously there's a lot of lousy comments, but some people write things, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And a lot of people kind of, I feel, limit themselves, and I was close to doing that as well. Like, this age, this year, and it kind of becomes this, you know, there's the placebo and there's the nocebo effect when we materialize negative things in ourselves. Yeah. And I think it's almost can happen like that, but if it's not there, it's not there.
Yeah, I guess of course there needs to be a balance, and you have to be realistic. So again, like if you said, I want to be a UFC fighter within 5 years, I might be like, okay, you haven't had any professional fights yet. Right. Let's take it chill.
Yeah, of course.
So I think it's more about just staying in the moment.
Right.
Not thinking too far ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Do your best right now.
Right.
And short term and mid term, and then the long term will come by itself.
Right.
And if it works out, it works out. Yeah. Trust the process.
Right. Cool. The very last thing I want to make sure we put into the video. So you are documenting your journey right now.
Yeah.
So is it mainly for YouTube, or is it on other platforms? Maybe just could tell a little bit about that to the audience if they're interested to follow your journey.
Yeah. It's mainly for YouTube. I have a guy helping me called Peter Wintrip. He's doing an amazing job at shooting some footage. So far, the content we've been putting out is like lead up to fights. We've been filming this week I've been here in Dublin, and then we're gonna film next week when I'm preparing for the fight. Probably gonna have some interviews of the mental aspects of it and the weight cut and stuff like that. And then mid-term, long-term, I'm gonna put content out with like maybe some daily vlogs here and there. Yeah. Well, not daily, but vlogs here and there if I'm doing anything exciting. Yeah. And I'm thinking of doing like a series where I break down significant, like good fights I had throughout my career. Oh yeah. Like talking about how did we prepare for that fight? Right. What was particular about that opponent? How did I feel in the fight? Stuff like that. Yeah. For maybe not every fight, but the ones that stick out. And then I'm thinking about maybe doing some technique series, perhaps. Yeah. I still have to put that idea into something more significant, but awesome. Yeah. I got some ideas.
Perfect. So hopefully we'll be releasing this video, can't promise, but we will hopefully be releasing this before your title fight. So the audience, if you're interested, title fight is kind of awesome.
Yes,
they can go to the channel. Will you have some extra content like before the fight or something around the title fight?
Yes, for sure. My friend Peter, he's gonna be filming me. Almost every day leading up to the fight, and we're gonna be putting out a video. Yeah, I think daily.
Nice.
Leading up to the fight. So
everyone who's interested,
go
jump on it. Cool. Well, this wraps up my questions. Yeah. Thank you very much for being so open to talk about everything and being so open to talk to me.
It was a
pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
so thank you very much. Cool.